Hi guys, it's Gail with Gail's Southern Living. I'm going to start off today's garden tour with a look under my grow light. I am in Central Texas Garden Zone 8A, and these tall ones in the back are tomatoes. I need to go ahead and get those up potted into the garden. My last frost date's only a few days away. I looked at the 10-day forecast. There is no freezing temperatures coming, so I'm going to get these planted into the garden today. So on the right here, I have some marigolds. I have 3 California Wonder peppers started. I have 2 Santa Fe peppers. I was testing a tomatilla seed to see if it was a viable seed. And I have an elderberry in here. And I also have a regular pumpkin, which I was testing those seeds to see if they were viable seeds. Obviously, they are. So I'm going to let that one get a little bigger before I put it outside. But possibly might have some early pumpkins this year because I got this start already going. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to go on into the garden and get these beef steak tomatoes planted. And then I'll show you the rest of the garden tour. Okay, here is where I put the tomatoes. After I planted them, I went ahead and added the leaves and sticks and things around them just to kind of support them. I pulled off the bottom leaves to keep the plant growing toward the top. That's what I've always heard you should do, so I'm following that along. And anyway, I try to plant them pretty deep. I thought I had 8, but I ended up with a little tiny one. So I went ahead and put that one in the ground too. So out of 9 seedlings from the grow light, let's see how many make it. So I have a little leftover dirt in my seedling tray. I'm going to go find somewhere to put that, and I'll show you the rest of this. Okay, so down on the end, in the white bucket, I have a sedum. Purple bucket, there's a tomatilla planted, and the next 2 buckets are also the tomatilla. And I have a marigold planted down here at the end. I have some volunteer sunflowers coming up right here. As you could tell, that orange bucket was breaking, so might be my last year on that bucket. And the most shocking part is that I actually have squash up. I have 2 butternut squash up here and 1 over there on the other side. I have 2 acorn squash here and 1 over there. There's no yellow squash up in this one. And there's 1 up in this one. I have planted in this pot some flowers, but those are not up yet. This pot right here has marigolds. They are up. And some alyssum. Those are up. And I have some marigolds in this pot. I have a lot of marigolds out. And don't remember what flower I planted in there, but some kind of flower in the green pot. In this one, I have thyme, and that is up. You can see the green in there. Don't know what's planted in this pot here. This one is some bachelor buttons, and that is up. My lemon balm is up. I don't know if that's a bell pepper in this pot or this tote, or if it's a weed. We'll see. We'll just let it go and see. I have a little bit of oregano up. I have a little bit of parsley up. These I just now planted, and that one is a forget-me-not. And it looks like there's a little bit up in that pot. Okay, the sage is looking really good. I probably need to harvest that along with the cilantro. I believe I need to harvest that as well. And this is kind of where I lay my eggs after I get them in the morning. It's kind of early, so they've only laid the 1 so far, but I'm sure I'll get some more later. I have a bunch of lettuce coming up here all over. That one's getting kind of tall. And I just did a bunch of different lettuces in here. And I just did a mix. And as you can see, there's several seeds in the hole, so hopefully they'll survive that way. And then I have the next section. This is also a bunch of lettuce. I did plant some Peter peppers in here. I don't know if those are going to come up. I planted some arugula, some collard greens, and I planted some amaranth in this planter and in the other planter. I just did that a couple of days ago, so that's definitely not up yet. I believe this one might be my collard green. If you know for sure, let me know. But this one, I believe, is part of the lettuce. So I did put some forks in here. I have some cats in my yard, so trying to deter them from laying in here. Okay, these are the beefsteak tomatoes I just planted in here. Have a patch of zinnias. I planted some tomato seeds in that section there. I have some zinnias there. I have basil planted in between each section. I have tomatoes here and some more zinnias. I have some basil planted in between. Tomatoes, basil in between, tomatoes planted, basil down here as well. I may need to dig some leaves out of there so that the basil will have a chance of coming up. And I have the T-post for the tomatoes to grow up on. So hopefully I have a good harvest of tomatoes this year. I decided to go with the tomato crowding method. Just plant a lot and hope that a bunch come up. So we'll see how that goes. I don't normally get a lot of weeds over here in this section, so that's really good. And this is our cement planter, cement raised bed. We had some cement work done a while back, and we had this bed put in. At the time, we had it put in for flowers, and I used to use this for sunflowers, but now I plant my tomatoes over here. So I've been amending this soil since the fall, so hopefully it is nice, rich soil, and I'll get a nice harvest of tomatoes out of here. And this is my pot garden. Each one of the pots has flowers in it, except for these two taller ones here. I have a cayenne pepper on the right and a jalapeno pepper on the left. And this is some moss rose. Now the moss rose will spread out flowers all over the whole pot. The pot should be pretty much full. So, and it's just in a cardboard setting. I thought this would be just a good place to have a little garden of flowers and pots, and this will help with the bees and stuff like that. So, okay guys, my garden tip for today is to use banana water on your plants after they get up a little ways. So I have some that I've had in the fridge. I'm going to pour some on this pepper plant, and then I'll take the extra bananas that are left in my jar and I'll put this in my compost bin. So this is my garden tip for today. And banana peels are good for potassium, magnesium, calcium, and phosphorus. So this is why we should try. And when you do your banana peels, put them in water and be sure to put them in the fridge because they are perishable. And that is my garden tip for today. I have the climbing wall section planted, but I don't have anything coming up yet. I have some wildflowers in the tire here and some cardinal climbers here. I have some morning glories in this one and some pickling cucumber and some loofah seeds. And in this section, in the baby pool here, I have planted carrots. And it's a little too soon for the carrots to be up yet. Okay, in this section, I have lavender and garlic chives. There is something up in here. Hopefully, it's the lavender. I have quite a few marigolds up in here. And I always put the marigolds next to the zucchini squash or any squash. So I have about 18 to 20 seeds planted in this bed. And I just did that, so there would be none coming up yet on that. I also have some marigolds down in this pot. And once they start coming up, I'll probably end up putting some marigolds somewhere in the middle. Once I figure out which ones are coming up, I'll go ahead and add some marigolds to this section. Hubby needs to mow, so there's a few little wildflowers, which I don't mind because I don't have any flowers up yet, so that's good for the pollination and stuff like that. So I do not have anything coming up in this planter yet. And this is the wild garden. I found a couple of pots and I put the dirt from them over here. I have some zinnias there, and zinnias and sunflowers here. Something is coming up right there. I'm not sure what that is. So, and I have been throwing seed in that section there with the dirt. There's a lot of leaves. Something coming up right there on the right. I did plant some bottleneck gourds right here in this dirt section. And that's kind of what I'm doing is if I want to plant something, I just come over here and put a little patch of dirt. And this will be a section where all the vines can grow of all the different watermelon and gourds and melons and stuff like that. So a section of something's coming up here. I'm guessing gourds or pumpkins. It's just a whole little section of wild stuff. And I have actually been weeding it pretty well, but I don't know how well I'll be able to keep up with it once everything gets going. But for now, I'm pretty much keeping up with it. Okay, I do have some flowers in this pot down here on the end, but it's not up yet. I just planted it. I did plant some ground cherries in this section, and I have pine mulch around to help with the weeds, and it does really seriously help with the weeds. So this section is full of the pine mulch that was left from the zucchini bed. This section, I have some lemon balm. I actually planted lemon balm in 2 places in case it didn't come up in one place. I have it planted in another place. I planted the dill here, so it has plenty of room. I have the forks in the ground because of cats. Planted some bunching onions here, but so far all I see are weeds. I have some tomatoes. I don't know why I said tomatoes. That's a blooper. I have some flowers planted in this section, and I have pretty much pots of flowers everywhere. I plan on using all of my pots for flowers this year. Every pot that is still a good pot, I'm going to plant flowers in.